Hello, everyone. I'm the person who made the page. Okay, so we have someone who is kind of a Michael Jordan fan. He wants to go on. He's from YouTube. He goes by the YouTube username of Ben H. He has Michael Jordan as a top 10 NBA player of all time, and he would like to explain why Michael Jordan is a top 10 NBA player of all time. So let me put him on. Hey, welcome to the program.
Yeah, so I think today I'm going to be mainly using a statistical argument because I think it's kind of more factual than using kind of eye test based stuff or talking about like his will to win or stuff of that sort. So so I've compiled a lot of statistics. That's mainly what I want to focus on here. We could also talk about like aspects of his game too, and so I'll just kind of think I'll just start going through points and we can kind of debate those. So first of all, I have a lot of stats here about his scoring. So, well, first of all, just an obvious one is that he was a 10-time scoring champion, which I think is definitely a significant thing. And
why would that be significant enough? Because someone is a scoring champion for different reasons, not just because they can score. In other words, lots of people could score just as much as Michael Jordan or more, but they didn't get all the scoring titles for one or more reasons.
Yeah, well, I understand that like getting the scoring title doesn't inherently mean like you're the best scorer in the league necessarily. Like for example, Iverson, he has 4, I believe, and I don't think there's really many people when he's in the NBA like really put him in the conversation for the most like dominant scorer. Like he's competing with guys like Kobe and Shaq and some other greats.
Well, when you say like is not in the conversation for most dominant scorer, that means you're going by like what people think, but that's not going to be legit either because people could be picking someone or not picking someone for one or more reasons.
Yeah, well, because other statistics matter too. Like basketball is not just about scoring, but I like on offense, it probably is the most direct way to like kind of impact your team. Like I guess you make a case that really elite passers do so in a similar way, like like the guys like Magic and Steve Nash and Isaiah Thomas, people who can really elevate their teammates that way. I guess ultimately it's about the amount of points you're able to create for your team. I guess that's what it would be about. And I would say that...
No, I wouldn't agree with that. It's not about how many points you create for your team. It's about how you affect your team. You can dominate this game and not score points. In theory, you could be the number 1 NBA player of all time and never score 1 point in the NBA.
Yeah, well, it is true that you can definitely impact games without scoring, but you can still create points either through your passing or some smart screens or like boxing people out or being a great communicator, stuff of that sort. So so directly scoring isn't the only way to create points for your team, but I would say it's probably the most direct one. Like if you have a superstar who you can kind of just rely on to get you a bucket when you need it, I would say that's arguably like the most valuable thing a player can do on offense, especially when like they're able to make tough shots in clutch situations, which I would say Michael Jordan definitely was able to do.
Well, no, but other things are important. Getting a rebound in a clutch situation, getting a steal in a clutch situation, setting a screen in a clutch situation, and so on. Other things are important. This is an example of why I consider you as someone who is kind of a Michael Jordan fan, because a lot of Michael Jordan fans use scoring as the name of the game. And I'm not saying you're doing it exactly like that. You're not, but you're kind of doing that kind of a thing. Even the clutch thing, by the way. Michael Jordan was a good clutch shooter, and so were lots of other players. I think when it comes to him as a clutch player, I think they've overrated him.
Yeah, that's well, I have to look at some data and probably looking at that more before commenting. But also, what I wanted to say too is we talked about Iverson earlier because he was never like a particularly efficient shooter. I think that's part of it too. I believe his effective field goal percentage was like usually like a bit under league average and didn't have very good true shooting either. I know you're not a fan of true shooting, but I consider it to be a reliable statistic. But Michael Jordan, he was pretty much always, like if you look at his shooting compared to the league averages, like if you go, I'm on his basketball reference page right now, so I'll just go to that section. Like he's pretty much always above. So if you look at effective field goal percentage and true shooting, so yeah, in '85, the effective field goal percentage, the league average was 49.6%, and he was 51.8.
Wouldn't this be proving that he's a good, efficient scorer? This wouldn't be proving that he's a top 10 NBA player of all time.
Well, I think having such a high volume of high scoring volume, especially because 10 times scoring chances. I guess tied for most career points per game, slightly above.
If you were on a team that didn't win, and you were the main scorer, and you scored a lot of points, and then you had a lot of scoring titles. I'm not saying he got a scoring title like that every year, but he got a lot of them like that. Would that be fair to rank you as a top 10 NBA player of all time? Most Hall of Famers, they have the ability to score lots of points. Michael Jordan got the green light, got lots of touches. Most of the plays were set for him,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like from scoring alone, I'd say no. I mean, there are other stuff too. Like I have some statistics in other categories that I'll get to later, but I would say that if you're able to score at like above average efficiency, like I went through like one season. Like I could go through all the seasons if you want, but like you get the idea that like he was efficient compared to the rest of the NBA, and also
he was a great scorer, but he wasn't more or less of a scorer compared to most of the other players. But if you want to talk about efficiency, there were a few players who were more efficient than him.
But at the same volume, like while he was playing, like which players would you say scored at a similar volume and at a similar efficiency?
Well, before I address that, why would volume get considered? Because if you're taking more shots, but you're not making them as much, then you could make the point, why would you take more shots?
Well, because he's shooting at above average efficiency for the league, it would still, because like if he's not taking the shot, it'd be someone else, then it would probably be someone whose shot percentage wouldn't quite be as high. And also, I think when you get double teamed or triple teamed, and like he'd have really like no options, he would usually like make a proper pass, and like because he was still able to create for his teammates. His tendency was definitely more towards shooting. That's more what his game was, but when he needed to make the pass, I would say he was pretty good at finding it.
How many Hall of Famers can you name that weren't good at making a pass?
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you're like a good passer, like that holds up against like a lot of Hall of Famers, which I'd say he is. Like, I mean, I have his assist numbers. Like, he's got pretty decent ones. Like, so it's 5.3 assists.
No, are you saying whoever gets more assists and averages would be a better passer?
Well, no, but it's hard to. It's not that easy to quantify, but like, because by the eye test, I think he's a good passer too from the film I've watched.
If you play tape, everyone's not going to agree about it. Who's a better passer than who?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm trying not to use like the argument too much, but it's because you're, because I understand that yes, like assists per game isn't necessarily the like fully reliable for who's the better passer. Like, I think a lot of it depends too on like what role you're put in on offense. Like for example, Shaq. Like I'd say he was a good passer, but his assist numbers weren't that high just because he was mainly like playing from down low, and like he was expected to like look to the basket first and try and post up and all that. So
and then also, why even go by just averages? Why not totals?
Well, he's also for the assist totals. Hold on, what was it? Yeah, so he has playoff assist totals. He's 12th all time, and he's 48th all time in total assists as well, which I'd say is quite significant. Like it's not like
significant to what? To make him a top 10 NBA player of all time?
Well, I mean, like when you consider that, I think he has an argument as the most dominant scorer ever, just because of the combination.
He has no argument for being the most dominant scorer ever. None.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there are other people in the conversation. Like Wilt would be up there for sure. You can make the case for Shaq. Probably say Curry. Like there are some guys.
If Michael Jordan, if you were guarding
Curry.
Michael Jordan 28 times and you were guarding Artis Gilmore 28 times, I'm pretty sure Artis Gilmore would have an easier time scoring on you than Michael Jordan.
I mean, maybe one-on-one because he's bigger and stronger than Michael Jordan, but
Right.
It's in game situations though where
Okay, I'll change it up. If they were double teaming Michael Jordan 28 times or double teaming Artis Gilmore 28 times, I'm pretty sure Artis Gilmore would have an easier time scoring more often than Michael Jordan.
yeah, well, because I've seen some Artis Gilmore highlights. I haven't really watched him in depth, so it's hard for me to comment on him.
But that's important though, because if you're going to determine Michael Jordan is a top 10 NBA player of all time, it'd be nice if you knew at least all the Hall of Famers who've played all time.
Yeah, I guess ideally that would make my take better because I would be able to have a wide range. I'd say like I'm pretty well informed in NBA history. Like I've watched a decent amount of footage and highlights. I mean, what about because you say because I know you're going to say that like most Hall of Famers don't have this opinion, and it's hard to say. It's hard to say exactly like if what percentage of them would rank Michael Jordan as the greatest or top 10 or whatever.
Very low percentage would put him as a number one NBA player of all time. Top 10, I'm not sure about that. Maybe I'm sure it's a higher percentage.
Yeah, because like a lot of Hall of Famers speak very highly of him. Like I mean, Reggie Miller is an example, and like there are plenty others. Like
every Hall of Famer I'm sure thinks highly of him, but there's lots of Hall of Famers who think highly of other Hall of Famers.
Yeah, but they seem to kind of talk about Michael Jordan with sort of.
How many times have you heard them talking about Artis Gilmore?
And I think I've seen him mentioned. Like I think on some NBA Open Court, I've seen him talk about there, and like I think I've seen.
But it's rare, right? Like, in other words, they don't talk about him as much as Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah, I don't really see him come up much.
So you can't go by that because there's different reasons why more Hall of Famers talk about Michael Jordan compared to, for example, Artis Gilmore. And when I bring up Artis Gilmore as an example, by the way, he's just one example. You know, you could bring up other players, obviously.
Yeah, fair. So you're saying like you bring up other scorers, other players as more dominant scorers than him? That you're saying?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. There's a ton of people who can score just as much as him, or more than him, or they're more efficient than him, or they dominate more than him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can keep going through the stats I have here because that wasn't the only sports stats I have. I have quite a few here.
No, I understand. I know you got more things. Yeah, we're just, you brought that up, so I'm going over that. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah, he was also like pretty great, like compared to his peers at getting to the line and making the free throws.
That's going to be misleading because he got to the line a lot, but you can thank the good old people at the NBA to help him get to the line a lot. The referees.
I'm sure that the because of like how huge of a star he was and how marketable he was for the NBA, they probably wanted him scoring points. So I'm sure a foul on MJ wouldn't have been a foul on some other players. That would not be surprising at all. But it's still like, I mean, he was still like right. I felt it's definitely meaningful that he was kind of consistently right at the top of the league, like right around.
Well, what's the meaning?
Top 5 to top 10. Well, because I mean, whether it is because the refs are not like aided by them, which it can't be entirely from the refs.
I mean, let's use some common sense here. If Shaq is going down low and Michael Jordan is going down low, 2 questions. 1, who do you think they would put more effort to be physical with, hack with, push them a little bit and all that? Who do you think they would do it more with? And 2, who do you think would get called to go to line more, Shaq or Michael Jordan? I'm not asking for the exact statistics. I have no idea if Shaq went more or not. I'm just asking a general thing. Most likely, they're going to be more tougher on Shaq, more physical, hacking him more and all that. And the referees are going to more likely to say, okay, you fouled Michael Jordan goes to the line versus Shaq.
Yeah, well, that's probably true, yeah. I think, like, especially, I think the bigger the player is, too, like, the more the refs kind of, like, well, this is the bias I would assume would probably be likely to exist, where, like, they probably assume, oh, well, he's big, so he can take the contact more, so it might not be, like, looking as much for, like, also it might not be as obvious, because, like, if you bump Shaq, you're probably not going to move him much, but if you bump MJ, he's probably more likely to, like, actually like change his course and like make the foul more obvious. That'd probably be part of it too. But also you said like so Shaq would be like in the post if you're dumping it to Shaq or dumping it to MJ. Yeah, like it would be a lot. If you're on the opposing team, it's a lot scarier if Shaq has it. But I would also say when he's coming in slashing, like coming in from the perimeter and like making his way towards the basket, he was a pretty unstoppable force for that as well.
Most of the Hall of Famers, especially the ones who score a lot, they can come to the basket and they were pretty good down low and they were pretty good at attacking and they were pretty much an unstoppable force.
I mean, to me, it's pretty hard to find people who. There are some you can make the comparison for, but there really aren't many who would do that on the same level as Jordan when you combine the combination of mid-range shooting and his drives and dunks.
No, you were talking about going to the basket. Mid-range is a separate thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're saying that there's a lot of Hall of Famers who can do that, and like I think Michael Jordan is kind of the combination of like just about his offensive package.
For most of Michael Jordan's career, he was an inside guy. He wasn't an outside guy, and he was not that. He was okay at the 3-point line. Not that good, but he was okay.
Yeah, well, like he developed throughout early on in his career. He didn't have as good of a mid-range shot. Like he had to develop it throughout his career, but once he got down, like later on, especially probably like into the 90s, like more into there. Like he was, I would say his mid-range shot, especially his ability to make tough shots over with very little room, and his ability to use
lots of Hall of Famers could do
his vertical to kind of get elevation and separate.
Lots of players were good at making those kind of shots. Lots of players had a good vertical.
I mean, there are some players. I wouldn't say there are lots of them.
Oh, there's lots of them. No, even non-Hall of Famers, there's lots of them.
Well, actually, for some players, for mid-range shots, it's really hard to find.
No, man.
Kevin Durant.
There's lots of players who could shoot who could shoot a jumper.
I guess Rip Hamilton maybe up there. There's like a few. There's a ton of people. There's a ton of
maybe Bird. Bird could shoot mid-range jumpers easy.
Well, no, I'm comparing them to MJ though. So because I'm not. If you're comparing them to MJ,
are you saying Michael Jordan was a better mid-range shooter than Larry Bird?
I don't know. It's tough to say, really.
No, it's not, man. Larry Bird just shot lights out, man. There's people who consider Larry Bird the #1 shooter of all time.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, especially when you consider 3-point shooting. There's also a better free throw shooter than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was an excellent free throw shooter, but not on the same level as Bird. So,
how come
if someone wants to call Bird the greatest shooter ever, I'd be fine with that.
No, but I thought you were not sure who was a better shooter between them. A mid-range shooter.
Well, mid-range shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
because Bird was obviously a much better 3-point shooter.
Yeah, if Bird's a better free throw shooter and a 3-point shooter, and people think of him as maybe the #1 shooter of all time, and if you want to go by tape, you can see how Bird can shoot pretty much anywhere. And Michael Jordan wasn't always a great shooter. How are you not sure who was a better mid-range shooter?
I guess you take the totality of the career, I guess would probably be Bird, but I just think kind of through the second half of MJ's career when he especially developed the 3-point shot, it's
even when he developed the 3-point shot, he was never a better shooter than Larry Bird. And by the way, they also shortened the 3-point line. I'm sure that helped him. And are you familiar with what happened to Michael Jordan in the 3-point shooting contest?
Yeah, he did have the worst performance ever. That is true.
And he never came back to it.
But it also wasn't in a game situation. I get that. If you're you'd probably expect him to do better than that for sure. It is pretty odd that I think he should have tried it again because I think if you fail at it, especially with the mentality that you appear to have, you should want to redeem yourself and do better next time. So yeah, I think he should have. But he also he was never really one of the like the elite 3-point shooters or anything in the league. He wasn't particularly good at that aspect. So yeah, maybe yeah. So if Lupkins wasn't as good at that, he probably didn't feel as inclined to go for it.
Hey, please subscribe, and if you disagree with me on something, you can go on my program and show me your facts on whatever you disagree on. If you want to go on, let's set it up. Send me an email. The email is right there in the description section. Thank you.